And we're going to start in the chest opener. So we have the one block on the flat, one block on the middle. And if you want it to be like a little softer, you could always put a blanket over top of it. So we're going to work on some back bending type of stuff tonight. It's called grounded back bends. So we're going to be doing back bends that are closer to the ground. So this one here, you can just come with your shoulder blades on the first one and then your head on the second one. So you can adjust that. And then legs could be however you like. And this is how we'll begin coming into your breathing. Okay. All right. So while you're here, see if you might be able to breathe into the place where the block is, behind your shoulder blades. So as you breathe, you'll feel the resistance of the block against your back ribs. So we're going to focus a lot on that middle back area today. That's our thoracic area. There's 3 parts of the spine, 3 major parts. We have the lumbar, which is in our lower back curve. And then the thoracic is that middle back. And then, of course, the neck is the cervical spine. And we're going to focus a lot on the thoracic, because for many of us, it's a more stiffer, stagnant area. And when that area is more stiff, then the lumbar area can compensate. The lumbar has a lot more flexibility naturally, but we can get even more stiff in that thoracic region, which can aggravate than the lower back. So we're going to bring some more mobility and suppleness into this middle back part. Okay, so using this setup with the blocks, we start to get a little stimulation of the pressure of the block into the back ribs. So we'll take a few more breaths. So if we are breathing well, a diaphragmatic breath is going to stimulate our rib cage, and it'll expand the rib cage as we breathe. And we'll see if we can get some of that expansion in the back body. Okay. So now from here, we're going to bend the knees if your legs are out straight. And we're going to take a little twist, but we're going to stay up on the same setup. Let your hips shift a little over to the right. And then have your feet separated. Let your knees drop over to the left. So it's almost like a windshield wiper position. I have my legs staggered so they're not stacked right on top of each other. Although you could, I feel like it feels better to just kind of stagger the legs. Now, if you have any discomfort there in the legs, you can always stick an extra blanket or a pillow under one or both of your knees. Otherwise, just go ahead and stay in that position, and we'll take about a minute or so there. Just coming into the breathing again, still breathing into the ribs. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and switch sides. So carefully bring the legs back up to the center and then scoot the hips a little to the left and let the knees drop to the right. Make any adjustments. And again, breathe here. And we're trying to keep that breath moving into the area of the rib cage. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and bring those knees back up to the center. And we'll take a pause. Take another breath or two here right in the center. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and roll out to the side and take the props out of the way. And we're still going to be working with one block, so keep one block handy. And now we're going to come into supported bridge. So we're going to lift the hips and slide the block under the sacrum. So another grounded back bend. And now instead of the upper body elevated, we have a little elevation in the lower body. So take a moment, just let your sacrum kind of land on that block, let it be heavy. We're going to bring the arms into robot arms. So robot arms is how I call it when we have our palms facing and our upper arms are down, elbows are down, and the palms face each other. And the forearm is straight up and down. So it's not goal post, it's the robot arm, okay? Like you're doing the robot dance. And then we're going to press the arm bones down. Press your elbows down, press your shoulders down. And then try to lift your chest up away from the floor. And we start to create a back bend in the upper spine. Think about lifting the back of your heart toward the front of the heart. And then exhale and just melt everything back down. And you can keep the arms in the same position. So let's try that a few rounds. Press the arms down, lift the chest. And lift right between your shoulder blades. And then exhale, melt down. Let's do that one more time. All right, so from here, lift your hips. We're going to take the block out. Set that to the side, come all the way down. And then come back into robot arms. Now we'll do it from the ground up. So no lift under the pelvis, but still press down into the arms and lift your chest up. Now walk your shoulder blades a little in towards each other and get the chest to lift. From here, extend your right leg out straight. Okay, keep the arms digging down, the chest lifting, and now press into your left foot and see if you can start to lift your right leg and your hips off the ground. And you push into that foot that's on the floor and reach the other leg up. And then lower everything back down. Okay, and if you can't lift it, then just do as much as you can. So we're going to press the arms down, lift the chest, and then push into the foot and get your hips off the ground, lift the leg. That's it, good. You really feel the back of that left leg working and lower it down. One more time, press the elbows down, lift the chest, push in your left foot and lift. Dig those arms down. And then release, relax, bend both knees. Okay, take a pause, relax your upper back for a moment, relax your lower back for a moment. And then we're going to do the other side. So we're back to robot arms, extend your left leg, keep your right leg bent. And then dig the arm bones down, lift the chest, walk the shoulder blades in, and then push into the foot that's on the ground and lift up. So we use the ground to create the back bend. So we're pushing the arms down, pushing the foot down, lift up again. And we're also strengthening the back chain here. As we press into the ground, we're strengthening the back of the right leg. We're strengthening the upper spine here. And release. Okay, relax, come back down. Take a breath or two. All right. let's go ahead and roll to our side. We're going to come on up into a seated position. Feel free to sit on a blanket or a pillow. Come into cross legs. Pull that in. Okay, so we're going to bring our hands behind us and we're going to pop up onto the fingertips. So like make little tents with your fingers. Sorry, my necklace got all choked around me when I was in the bridge pose. Okay, fingers to the floor. Press the fingertips down, lift the chest, and then draw your shoulder heads back. So we open up the front of the chest. And then as you inhale, we're gonna lift the chest and come into a back bend. Contract the upper back. And then exhale back to neutral. And we're gonna repeat that a few more rounds. Press down, inhale, lift the chest, and now squeeze the shoulder blades towards each other and even a little down, and then back up to neutral. Good. One more time. Press down, lift up, open the chest, and release. Okay, switch your legs, opposite leg in the front. And now, same thing, but let's walk the hands even closer together behind you. And maybe even your thumbs are gonna touch, so you're more narrow. And then push down, lift and open your chest. So it's gonna feel a little different. Maybe you can't go as far. That's okay. And then release. And 2 more rounds, press down, lift up. Try to get into that upper back. And release. One more time. Good, and let it go. Shake the arms out a little bit. Now we're gonna clasp the hands behind the back. So now we're even more narrow. Okay, so now from here, inhale, you're gonna take those shoulder heads back, open the chest, and lift the arms behind you. And then exhale, arms back down. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, release. One more time. Good, and let it go. Okay, release the arms, take a breath. And then let's come into all fours. We'll go into tabletop position. Patting under the knees if you like. And then let's go ahead and do our 5 cat-cows, focusing on the upper spine. So as you inhale, think about a little contraction between your shoulder blades. And then exhale, round and spread the shoulder blades apart. And keep going. Inhale, arch. Exhale, round. And we've got 2 more cycles. And then after that, go ahead and move back to child's pose, take a pause. Back up into tabletop position. And now we're gonna do a cat-cow, but we're gonna make it much smaller, and maybe watch for a moment. This is called a thoracic cat-cow. So instead of moving my tailbone and my head and my chest, I'm only gonna be moving that middle upper back. So it's a lot smaller movement, and I'm gonna use the core to help control it a bit. So from here, as I inhale, I'm gonna bring the upper spine in, and you might not even be able to really see anything change. And then as I exhale, I'm gonna round into that middle back. So I'm not moving my pelvis, and I'm moving my head and chest as little as I can. So I'm trying to isolate that middle upper back. Now let's go ahead and do a few rounds like that. So for many of us, that's a stiff and stagnant area. If we do sit a lot for any kind of work, it'll tend to get very stagnant, but also if we're not breathing properly. Last one. And then move back to child's pose once again. This time in child's pose, stretch your arms all the way forward. Get as long as you can through your side body. And then come up on your fingertips like we did before when we were seated. Make little tents with your fingers. Your head is off the floor and your chin is a little tucked under so the neck is long. Now, as you inhale, press into your hands, press into your shins, lift your chest, and almost find a baby cobra. Can you get that upper spine to engage? And then exhale, melt down. Maybe your head goes to the floor, maybe not. And repeat. And the whole time, we're going to keep the arms active. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. And again, inhale, lift, arms are active, elbows are off the ground. You're on these little tents of your fingers. Exhale. And one more time. Good, and release. Now stack your palms under your forehead and rest. Maybe give your hips a little side to side wiggle. That feels good. Okay, come back up into tabletop. We're going to grab our blocks and we're going to place the blocks on their highest edge. And we're going to put our hands on top of the blocks. Again, you might want to watch. So I'm going to put my hands on the blocks. I'm going to walk my knees back. And this is a version of puppy pose. So you're going to really have to press your hands into the blocks. And we'll start to let the head come toward the floor. Keep the arms strong and active to protect your shoulders. And then lift back up. Okay, so your head doesn't even have to go all the way to the floor. Lower down, press your hands into the blocks. Keep the arms strong. Let the head come down as far as it wants to go. I'm almost to the floor, but maybe, yep, just grazing the floor. And then come back up and let's do that one more time. Press into the blocks. If we don't press, it's going to be hard on the shoulder joint. So arms strong. Come back up and then set your palms down. And if you can, just sit back on your heels for a moment. If that's hard, then just go into child's pose again. Good. Okay, we're going to repeat. We're going to do another variation. So just take another peek. This time, one hand on the block. The other hand is going to be on the floor, kind of under your shoulder. And then watch for a moment. I'm going to sit back towards child's pose. And I'm going to really press this hand into the block. The block might tip away from the floor. That's okay. And then we're going to come back. Now, the next piece, one more thing. We're going to slowly pull back and then draw the hips to the left. And then come back up. Okay, so we're kind of making a C curve in the spine. So we first shift back and we get that stretch through the arm and the side body and then hips to the left, maybe even your head to the left, and then come back to the start, palm flat. One more time, hips pull back and then over to the left. Again, nice stretch through the arm and the side ribs, and then release, both hands down. Sit back for a moment, take a breath. So we're trying to get length through here, right? So some of the things we're gonna do later, it'll be helpful to have that a little more open. And again, that's part of this thoracic area, and there's a muscle back here called the serratus that can get a little tight as well. So we're gonna do our other side. Come forward, right palm down, left palm on the block. Good, okay, and then sit back and draw your hips to the right. And then come back and repeat. Pull the hips back, draw over to the right, and back. One more time. All right, and then once again, sit back on your heels for a moment, interlace your hands behind your back and open up the chest again. Squeeze the shoulder blades back, and then lift and open your chest. Good, release. Let's go ahead and bring hands back to the blocks and step the right foot forward, coming into a lunge. Walk your hands up onto your front thigh. Okay, so stay here, lift up nice and tall, and we'll interlace the hands behind the back again. Keep hands a little open so you don't have to put your heel of your hand together. And if you open them, try to pull them apart. It gets the chest a little more open and it also engages those upper back muscles. Now, keeping your abdomen drawing a little back, so we're not going to kind of let the belly dump forward. Keep the abdomen back and your tailbone drawing down will slide into the front knee. And then squeeze the shoulder blades back, lift and open your chest. So now we're in another back bend, but we're going to use the floor, root down into the floor to lift your heart a little higher. Good, and next inhale, release your hands, reach your arms up, and then hands down to the blocks. Step your foot back. Other side. Left foot forward. Good, hands on your thigh, come on up. And when you're ready, interlace your hands if you can with the opposite thumb on the top. And then open the fists a little bit. Draw your shoulder heads back, abdomen back, tailbone drawing down. And then maybe deepen into that lunge and come into the back bend. Lift and open your chest. Really work that upper back. Also helpful for me to engage your back outer glute. So give that a squeeze there and that'll help you stabilize here. Next inhale, reach the arms up. Hands down to the blocks. Step your foot back. And then set your blocks off to the top of your mat. And let's come down onto the belly. And we're going to come into Sphinx pose. So we're going to be up on your forearms. Line up your elbows with your shoulders and your wrists with your elbows. And then press down into the ground to lift up through your chest. Just like we did in those bridges earlier, really dig the arm bones down into the floor. So if I stop rooting into the floor, I'm just going to collapse. So if I press down, press the floor away, it's going to keep my chest lifted. Good, and now bring the back of the heart forward toward the front of the heart and try to contract that spot between the shoulder blades that we've been targeting today. And breathe. Let's hold it there, one more breath. Good, and then release and come down, give your hips a little wiggle. And then stack your palms up and rest your forehead on your palms. Okay, we're gonna bend both knees so that your shins are straight up and down. Flex your feet a little bit. And now from here, we're gonna try and keep the legs as even as we can because we're gonna do some leg lifting. And a lot of times we do the leg lifting, the leg tends to kind of sway in and out. We're gonna try and keep it neutral. Let's lift the right thigh up. And try not to take it out to the side. Lift it up, even if that means you only lift a tiny, tiny bit, and then release. Other side, lift your left thigh up and release. And let's do that a few rounds. Looks like you're marching in place. And we're strengthening the gluteals and the hamstrings here. Let's try a few more rounds. So to back bend, we need our back chain to be strong. One more round, and that includes the hamstrings and the glutes. Good, and then let the feet come down, let your head come down, and give your hips another shimmy. Maybe you want a windshield wiper, side to side. As we're gonna do some more grounded back bends. Okay, grab your two blocks in your hands and you're gonna put them alongside your body. And the palms are gonna face the ground. And the blocks are in your hands with your fingers on top and your thumb on the bottom. Turn your head to center. Now here's an option. Maybe you want a blanket or pillow under your forehead because then your nose doesn't get smashed. So it's up to you if you feel like you want that. Okay. Well, hopefully you can hear me. I'm gonna keep my head up, so make sure you can hear me. You keep your forehead down. Let's try and lift the blocks up. Lift the blocks up, and you're gonna use those upper back muscles, use your arms. Maybe lift your head and your chest. Squeeze the legs together, maybe lift the legs. Keep the back of the neck long, lift those blocks a little higher. And then come down and rest. And we're gonna do that 2 more rounds. When you're ready, lift the blocks, maybe head and chest, maybe legs. So up to you if you maybe just want to do the arms or just the head and chest with the arms. Squeeze the legs together, lift the arms higher, and let it go. Last round. We're gonna make sure we're pressing the kind of pubic bone down. So it's like your tailbone is pressing into the floor. And then lift up again. Now use that feeling of pressing your tailbone down to lift a little higher. If you press down to what's on the floor, it'll help you lift. And release. Okay, stack up your hands, rest and wiggle. Windshield wiper if you need to, whatever feels good. Take a break. So we're gonna do another round, this time with the arms out to a T. We're still gonna be using those blocks. So now out to a T, in line with your shoulders. Forehead down on the blanket or the ground. Legs together, lift your blocks, lift your head, lift your chest, maybe the legs. And from here, rotate your blocks so you're turning the bottom forward. And lift up. And then turn the blocks down and release. So we're adding a little twist of the arms. 2 more rounds. Lift the blocks. Head, chest, and legs are optional. And then turn the blocks forward. So your thumbs go back, and then turn them back and release. Take a pause, we've got 1 more round. There we go, lift up. Rest if you need to. Just turn the blocks forward, thumb goes back, turn the blocks back down, and you're done. Okay, wiggle it out. Good strengtheners for the back. Slide your hands back. Tabletop, child's pose. Okay, let's go ahead. If you have a blanket down, we're going to take the blanket off. So we have just your mat. Okay. And then come into tabletop. Let's take the hands slightly forward of the shoulders. We're going to go into down dog in a moment. So we have a slightly long table, but just maybe like one half handprint or handprint forward of your shoulder. It's not super far, okay? And now stay here and start to take your upper spine in and look up a little bit. I feel like you can get that upper spine contracted. Now tuck your toes, lift up to down dog, and try to keep that upper spine in. At first, lift your heels high and bend your knees. Firm your arms and try to keep that upper spine feeling like it's moving in rather than rounding. And then try to see if you could let your heels come down without losing upper spine in. Okay, knees down, tabletop, child's pose. Inhale, table, upper spine in, tuck your toes, lift up, keep the knees bent, keep upper spine in, sit bones nice and high. And then heels can drop if you can keep upper spine in. If you tend to round your back, better to bend the knees. Keep the heels high. Knees down, child's pose. Last time, tabletop, upper spine in, downward facing dog. Maybe heels come down, maybe they stay up. And then let's walk forward, top of the mat. Come into halfway lift, hands on your thighs, and pause there. So in the halfway lift, I want you to lift your shoulder heads and try to get your upper back to engage. Back of neck long, tone your belly. And then fold forward. Inhale, let's reach all the way up. And hands to your heart. Very good. Okay, grab your strap. And I'm going to show you something. I don't know if we've done this before together. Make sure there's no loop in your strap. And we're going to do something called the backpack. I'm going to come up closer so you can see. So take the loop out because we want as much length in the strap as we can get. Okay. And then you can stay standing. I'm just going to come up close. You're going to take your strap behind your armpits and then try to make sure that your tail is even. Okay, so I'm going to try to have both ends of the tail equal. Okay. Now from here, you're going to take one end of the tail, throw it over your shoulder, like you're putting on a backpack, and then take your other one, throw it over your shoulder, get your hair out of the way. Then we're going to crisscross them in the back, crisscross them, and you're going to pull your tails forward. Got it? Okay, so we're going to keep that and stay in mountain pose. And as you pull on your strap, it gets your shoulders back and it gets your spine in a good alignment. Let's widen the feet just on the outer hips distance so you're not super close. Pull on your strap and then bend your knees. And we're going to hinge forward into that halfway up shape. And as you hinge forward, pull your arms out to the side and extend from the tailbone to the crown of the head. Hold that another breath, toning the belly. And then slowly come all the way up. Good, keep your backpack on. We're gonna do that one more time. And then we're going to try and maybe use this a little later on in another pose. Hopefully we'll have time. One more time, pull the straps out to the side, the tails. Bend the knees a little bit, hinge forward. Try to bring your chest parallel to the ground and then pull on your straps, arms out to the side. Elbows are bent, and then lengthen, tailbone to crown. And then rise all the way back up. Good. And then take your backpack off. And you'll feel nice and loose now, nice and free. Okay. So just a little bit of flow. Not too much flow tonight, but I just want to kind of warm up a little bit more before we do a few more back bends, plus give you a little bit of break from all the back bends. So standing in mountain pose, I'm going to be sideways so we can flow. Bend your knees and come into chair pose, reach your arms overhead. And then from here, fold forward. Halfway lift, upper spine engage. Really lift the shoulder heads as you do halfway lift. And then plant your hands, step back, plank. Option to drop knees. Go ahead, lower down. And as you inhale to cobra, try to get your shoulder heads back. And then back of heart toward front of heart. Release. Downward facing dog, hips go up and back. Inhale your right leg straight up. Step it through. We're going to come into a warrior one. Back heel down and reach your arms up. Okay, so root into your feet and then reach up high toward the ceiling. Warrior one is kind of a mild back bend. There's just a little bit of a back bend here. Keep pushing your feet into the floor and reaching your arms up high. And then we'll interlace the hands behind the back. Squeeze those shoulder blades back and then lift and open into a little back bend. From here, hinge forward, belly toward the thigh, humble warrior, or you can fold inside the leg. Reach those arms up and then pull the front hip into the middle. Try not to let it sway way out to the side. Next inhale, reach the arms back up. Hands come down. Step back, plank pose. Lower down, cobra pose, shoulder heads back. Downward facing dog. Same thing, other side. Inhale, left leg up. Step it through, warrior one position, back heel down, and reach the arms up. Good. Okay, press into your feet and lift the arms up. Hold it here for another breath. Keep trying to get taller through your upper body. And then interlace your hands behind your back. Keep a loose fist and a slight bend in the elbows and lift into your back bend. Open the heart. And then hinge forward, either chest on the thigh or fold inside. But if you fold inside and your hip sways out, pull it back into the middle. Next, inhale, root into the feet. Rise all the way up. Hands come down. Step back, plank. Drop knees if you prefer, lower down. Inhale, cobra, shoulders back. Downward facing dog, lift the hips. Take an inhale here, exhale, walk it forward, top of the mat. Halfway lift, fold forward. Bend the knees, chair pose to finish out that standing sequence. And then release, arms down, back to mountain pose. Very good. Okay, we're gonna grab our two blocks. And you're gonna place them out toward the top of your mat. And you're gonna put them like this, so they're end to end. And then you're gonna take a blanket, fold it in half, and put them on top of the blocks. Okay, so back to some more grounded back bends. We're gonna come down to the belly. We're gonna come into Sphinx with our arms up onto the blocks. So now it's gonna be a higher Sphinx, which is gonna be a little more challenging on the lower back. So if this is too much, draw your abdomen a little back, and that'll take some of that deep curve out of the lower back. And then press your arms down, lift your chest. Hold it there, one more breath. Good. Okay, from here, come down, just take a little rest for a moment. You can rest on your blocks. Okay. From here, come back up and place your left forearm on the blocks and bend your right knee. And then reach back, see if you can catch that foot. And if you can't, you're just gonna reach in that direction, or you can use a strap. And then push into your arm, lift your chest, and kick your foot back. And then your gaze could go forward, if that's okay. If you can't get it, just reach. One more breath. And then let it go. Come down again. Maybe give those hips a little wiggle. So having the blocks here kind of helps us lift up a little higher. Let's try the other side. So forearm on the block, bend your other knee, catch that foot. If you can, hold the big toe side. If you can't get the foot, you're just reaching, and then push down into the blocks, kick your foot back, and lift your chest. Think about your elbow crease turning up, and that'll help open your shoulder. And let it go, release. Pause. Okay, so from here, press yourself up. And we're gonna rest the rib cage on the block set up here. Actually, do one more thing. Take the block blanket, open it up, and drape it over the edge. So it won't be as high, but it's gonna soften the edge of it a little bit better. Ideally, we use a bolster here, but I know not everyone has bolsters at home, so I'm making a block setup that's similar to a bolster. If you have a bolster at home, those of you doing the recording, it'll probably feel better on a bolster, but I'm just gonna show it with the blocks and the blanket. So you're gonna put your rib cage, like right under your chest, onto the blocks, okay? And then arms are in front, almost like Sphinx. So it helps you lift your chest. And then from here, we're gonna bend both knees. And then walk your hands back, and if you can, you're gonna get both feet. So it's a supported bow pose. So with the blocks there, now I don't have to work as hard to lift my chest. The block is holding me up, and I'm gonna kick the feet back. Again, if you can't get the feet, reach for your feet. You can get the feet. Shoulders back. Use the ground to lift a little higher. And let it go. Press yourself up. Child's pose with your arms and your head on the block. One more breath. Okay, slowly start to come up. And we're going to stand up on our knees. So you may want to have your blanket for under your knees, depending on your surface there at home. And you're gonna grab your strap again. Soon we're gonna get to relax and just kind of loosen everything up. So we're gonna stand on our knees and we're gonna put our backpack on again. So you're gonna take your strap behind your armpit, try to make sure there's no twists in it, and then throw one end of your tail over your shoulder on each side. And then you're gonna cross them in the back. Oops, not crossed. Cross them in the back and then pull your tails out to the side. There she goes, okay. Now, so we're gonna kind of work on a modified camel pose with the backpack. So pull on the strap, notice how that gets your shoulders back, opens your chest, pull the arms out to the side, your tails out to the side, and start to lift and open your chest. And come into your back bend. Keep your tailbone drawing down and your chest lifting up. Try not to drop into your neck. Pull on your strap. And then slowly come back up. You can stay here or sit on your heels. We're going to do it one more time. Good. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that once again. Pull the strap out to the sides, open your chest, draw your tailbone down till you feel a little tone in your glutes and your hamstrings, and then lift and open your chest. Press the back of your heart up toward the ceiling. Good, and release. And option to sit back or stay there. We're gonna take the strap off. Last little bit here. One more time, camel pose. Several options. We can do a clasp behind the back and come into it. If you want to go for a full pose, maybe you're going to tuck your toes and you could reach for your heels. You could also put some blocks next to your feet and you could bring your hands to your blocks. Okay, those of you with bolsters at home, if you put a bolster on the shins, make yourself a little shelf, and that's a nice way to do it too. So let's start, I'm gonna start with the clasp. But you can always do any of those variations you like. Pull your hands apart isometrically, open your chest, squeeze those shoulder blades back, draw the tailbone down, and then lift and open your chest. You might stay there working on this, or maybe then progress to hands to heels. And once you get hands to heels, draw your pelvis forward and press the heart up. Slowly release and come down. Okay, we're gonna come into a seated posture from here. And let's go ahead and sit onto a blanket or a pillow. I'm actually gonna use my pillow because I want you to have a second blanket. So if you have two, that would be good. Something to sit on, and then take your second blanket and we're gonna roll it up so we have something to go under the knees. So we're gonna roll that blanket up and extend the legs over the roll. We did a lot of contracting the spine in. Now we're gonna just take a forward fold as a counter pose to help relax the back after all the contracting. We're gonna let it release. Now you might wanna keep your blocks nearby because depending on your range of motion, how far forward you go, you might be able to rest your head on your blocks, and that's kind of nice after all the work we did. Before we come into it, let's move the sit bones back and apart, because when we forward fold, we want those sit bones to kind of be out and not tucked under, okay? Let's take the arms, reach them up. Inhale, get a little taller. And as you exhale, bring your hands down. You're going to either go to shins, ankles, or feet. And before we let go, we're going to do one more little back bend. So let's lift the chest high. Bring the back of the heart forward toward the front of the heart. Let your upper back engage. Hold that for a breath. And then exhale, fold over the legs. And if you're close enough to build a little shelf, let your head rest. So I have my legs just wide enough that my blocks go in between my legs to rest the head. And now send your breath into your back. And remember all the cues, we were bringing that spine in and contracting it. Now do the opposite. Let your spinal muscles have a sense of spreading away from the spine. And bring some breath into your back. We're going to stay here for a few more breaths. Okay, slowly slide your hands toward your thighs, press down and slowly come up. Pause when you get vertical. Good. Okay, set those blocks off to the side. We're gonna come on our backs and we're gonna need our tennis balls. So you can have something under your head. And now we're gonna do just some releasing work for the back after all that work. Starting with the single tennis ball. So let's grab that. And let me just show you where we're going to be placing it. We're going to do one side at a time. So I'm going to find my sacrum, which is that bone at the bottom of the spine. I want the ball right above the sacrum and close into the middle. So my spine's about here. I want the ball just to the right of it. You feel there's like these like ropey muscles. We're trying to hit those muscles, okay? So we're going to come down and just start with feet flat. And take that ball under that right side and just pause there and just feel the ball pressure right alongside of your spine. Now on the bone of the spine, you're on the fleshy, muscly part right next to the spine. And then let's straighten the left leg, keep the right leg bent. Relax your arms. And then widen your right foot out a little bit because what we're going to do now is just do a little windshield wiper of the right knee. Drop it in and drop it out. And as you move the knee, you'll get a little more kind of massaging feeling of the ball in your spine. Okay, go ahead and pause and now move the ball up about an inch, still close to the spine. Pause and breathe. And then windshield wiper, side to side. Okay, and now move the ball up one more inch. So it's still kind of below your rib cage in the back. New spot, pause for a breath or two, let the body settle into that ball. And then when you're ready, windshield wiper the knee. Okay, And then go ahead, take the ball out and slide both legs out and just feel that right side now compared to the left. For me, it's just more to the ground. So it's releasing, it's released more than the other side. So let's even out, bend your left knee, and you're gonna stick the ball above the sacrum, close in toward your spine. And pause, and just take a breath or two. Widen the foot a bit. And then windshield wiper. Sometimes I even pick the foot off the floor if I'm not feeling enough. Like I've been doing this all week, so it's not as intense as it was for me at the beginning of the week. Well, I've only been doing it for 2 days, but since Monday, but I've taught a few classes. So now we're gonna move it up a little bit. Maybe an inch. Keep it close into the spine. A breath or two here. And then windshield wiper the leg. Okay, and then pause and move it up one more time, but we're still below the rib cage. You're not on the bone. You're still in that fleshy spinal muscle along the spine. Breathe for a breath or two. I like to imagine I could breathe right where that ball is. And then windshield wiper. Okay, and then release, take the ball out, slide both legs out, take a pause. Okay, bend both knees. Come into figure 4, right ankle over left knee. And then bring the knees into the chest and reach through behind your left thigh and interlace your hands if you can. Now notice if your back is rounding, can you draw your shoulders and your tailbone a little down to take some of that rounding out? And if you can't hold the leg without rounding, let your leg go further away and hold your pant leg. Or you could take a strap around your thigh and then you'll have that natural curve in your back and you're not going to be all rounded. Okay, if you can, you clasp your hands. And hold it there, flexing both feet. Okay, let the feet come down, but keep figure 4. Offset your hips a little to the right edge of your mat and try to bring the right sole of the foot to the floor on the left, coming into a twist. Right arm out to a T. Bring your left hand to your inner thigh as high up as you can. And press your inner thigh away, opening that knee a bit. And breathe. Maybe looking over your right shoulder. Good, and then release your hand out to a T, left hand, and hold the twist. If the twist is too much, by the way, you can always use a block underneath your left leg. Okay, and then slowly take that top foot to the floor and even yourself out. Left ankle crosses over. Figure 4, bring the legs in toward your chest and then hold behind your right thigh. Again, if you're rounding your back, let that leg move a little further away. You could hold your pants or use a strap, because we don't want them all rounded here to get rid of all the progress we just made to extend our spines. Flex both feet. Keep the shoulders grounded. Okay, let the foot come to the floor, keeping your figure 4, and then hips a little to the left, and then bring your legs over to the right. See if you can bring the left foot to the floor. And then right hand to the inner thigh, and press that inner thigh gently away from you. Left arm out to a T, look over your left shoulder. Okay, relax your arm out to a T, hold the twist a couple more breaths. Okay, and then bring that top foot back. Come all the way back to center. Even yourself out. Okay, we're gonna grab one block again. And if you have a pillow under your head, take that out, because anytime we come into supported bridge, we don't want to have something under the head. We're going to lift the hips and come back to supported bridge. Then we're going to bring the knees up and into the chest. And let the knees fall toward the chest. And as the knees fall toward the chest, you're just catching like the top edge of your sacrum on the edge of the block. If it's too intense, you could always put a blanket over the block. You can also use a bolster. And hug the knees toward the chest. And we get a little traction through the lower spine. So there's like a lengthening of those lower vertebrae. You can stay right here, or you might want to go further by taking the legs straight. And if you take the legs straight, let them fall towards your head. It's almost like a plow pose variation, but a lot more gentle. And we're stretching the whole back chain here of the legs, the lower back. After all that back bending might feel nice. You can either let your arms relax or hug your arms around your legs for a little bit more stretch. And breathe, don't overdo it. We overdo it, then the stretch reflex kicks in, and then we will tighten up more. So we want to go gentle with ourselves. And then we'll slowly bend the knees and set the feet back down, back to supported bridge. And then let's go ahead and come off of the block. Come all the way down. Grab your 2 balls in the sock. Give a little squeeze so that they're not right next to each other. And then we're going to lift up and put the balls down right above the sacrum. So kind of where we started with the single balls, but now doubles. If you want, you can have that pillow under your head again. And now just kind of rock the knees a little right to left, almost like you're sliding across those balls a bit. Just even things out. And then move the balls up to that second position, like an inch higher. It's like 1 ball on either side of the spine. We don't want them too far apart because then they won't hit those muscles. So if they're too far apart, squeeze them a little in, but we don't want them right on the spine, so we need a bit of a space in between. and then we're gonna move those balls up one more time below the rib cage. And again, a little rocking right to left. Those balls massage those back muscles. Okay, and then take the balls out, come all the way down, let your back relax into the ground. And then let's go ahead, bring both knees into the chest. Wrap your arms around your knees. Take an inhale, exhale, lift your head, your chest, your shoulders, and come into a little ball. Tighten everything up. And then come down. Stay here, maybe circling the knees, or if you like happy baby, you could take happy baby. And in your happy baby, we're also trying not to round the back, especially that lower back. Let's see if we can keep the shoulders and the sacrum area down if you're doing happy baby. And then we're gonna hug the knees back in if you're in happy baby, and we'll find Shavasana. Good work. Now, I would say, so today's practice was pretty demanding on the lower back. I would say put your blocks like we had them earlier, short end to short end with your blanket on top. Then you can make yourself a little shelf. And maybe you want your pillow under your head. And that'll help your lower back relax to have a bend in your knees. And then just let everything soften down. And imagine the back body spreading into the ground. So now no contraction in the muscles. Just let go and breathe. And send some of that breath into your back rib cage. Let's continue to rest. I'm going to come up and find our reading for today. Okay, so this is from Donna Markova. And I really like this one for our backbending practice because when we do backbends, there's this opening of the front body where maybe some of us could be a little shut down or closed off or armored up, vulnerable. We close down the front body. And so when we backbend, there's this element of courage and fearlessness to open up the front body. So here goes. I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that that which came to me as a seed goes to the next as a blossom. And that which came to me as a blossom goes on as fruit. It can be challenging to open ourselves up in such a way as backbends ask us to do. especially if we are kind of sheltering, protecting our heart. So we might notice the energetic effects of a back bending practice. Now we spent a good amount of time releasing with the forward fold and the twist and the ball work. But just know back bending can be a little stimulating for the nervous system. So make sure that you take some time to unwind tonight. So back bends in the evenings sometimes can be so stimulating, they can make us more alert. So relax your body. Maybe keep the rest of your evening pretty chill to wind down. All right, so we're gonna start to return. You can start to deepen your breath, bring in small movements. Of course, if you are doing video and you want to stay as long as you like in Shavasana, you're welcome to stay there longer. We had about 5 or 6 minutes. Ideally, we would stay even longer. So take your time, move when you're ready. Try not to go too quickly. You roll to your side, take a pause, and then eventually come on up to sit. Okay, so we'll sit up nice and tall, lengthen up through the spine once again. And then bring our palms together. And take an inhale, exhale, bow your head to your heart. Namaste.